chased by a pack of wolves.
I had a lot of interactions over the years with the wolves, and I never had wolves act aggressive to me. I've had them act curious. I've had them act scared. I've had them act indifferent. I never had wolves act aggressive to me until that time, January 2012, when a pack of 20 wolves literally took after me out on the lake. And I did shoot 3 of those wolves.
And what was that about? Why do you think they were taking after you?
It was a very unusual situation. First of all, there were 20 wolves in one place. That's unheard of up there. That's totally unheard of. The largest pack of wolves I've ever heard a count of that far north was 17 wolves, and that was back in the 1970s. Usually there's 5, 6 wolves in a pack up there. It's a real hungry country. It's hard for them to feed themselves if the pack gets bigger than that. They have to split up and go somewhere new. But I don't know what happened that year. I don't know if 2 packs combined. I don't know if the pack just grew to that size, but it was unheard of. Anyway, I'm up on a mountain. I look down at the lake. It's in January. It's just twilight in the middle of the day. I see this big brown spot out on the ice. I'm like, what the hell's that? It's like out in front of my cabin about 500 yards, this big brown spot. First, I thought it was water overflow that comes up through the ice sometimes when you get a crack. I get out the binoculars. I'm looking, and holy cow. That's a giant pack of wolves that just took something down on the lake. I can see like one of them's breaking off, and then coming back over, and I realized what's going on. There was very little snow that year. Even though it was January, it had been cold since September, but very little precipitation. There was only about maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow, so I could literally run down the mountain. I was down at the lake within 20 minutes, and I went right to my cabin. I got my camera. I got my tripod. I'm like, this is phenomenal. I got to document this. And I start walking across the lake out to where they are to get pictures of this. So I get about 350 yards from these wolves. I still don't know what the animal is that they got there. And, I can hear them. You can hear bones breaking and stuff. The wolves, it's just amazing. Yeah. And I start taking pictures, and I run out of batteries. I'm like, oh, shit, I ran out of batteries. So I got to go back to the cabin. That's like 150 yards behind me, And I turn around. I start walking back to the cabin. When I get about 30 yards or so from the cabin, I look back over my shoulder, and the whole goddamn pack of wolves is racing across the lake straight toward me. I'd never seen anything like it. I sprinted like Jesse Owens through the door of that cabin. I was only 30 yards from it. I turn and I look back out the window, and these wolves came right up into my yard. They were 50 yards from the front door, 20 wolves.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like, this is unheard of. Wolves are usually hightailing it out of there when they see people. So, I get my new batteries. I get the camera set back up. I go back out. By the time I get back out in the yard, they're back over at this thing they've killed like 500 yards away. And I want to get more pictures of this. I got my rifle too, of course. So I start heading back over. When I get about 350 yards from them, I start taking more pictures. I got a great picture. You could pull it up maybe.
Yeah, let me see that.
Anyway, they're all eating, and I start taking pictures again. And after I take some pictures, first 1, then 2, then 3, the wolves, they're like, I can see they stop eating and they're looking at me. They're like 350 yards away, but I can just see that they notice that I'm back out there on the lake, and they're sizing me up kind of. And then I see some of them are just really slowly moving toward me, like walking a few steps and stopping. And I'm thinking, yeah, I got my rifle and everything, but there's a lot of wolves there. How do I know they're going to stop when I start shooting? So I decided maybe it's best to just make a slow retreat. And I started backing up and walking back toward the cabin. And the wolves, it looked like they were slowly walking towards me as I'm walking toward the cabin. When I got about, if I remember right, it was 100 yards from the cabin, those wolves started galloping. They just, all 20 wolves started galloping towards me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, wow, look at this picture.
Yeah, those wolves right there. They start galloping towards me, and I dropped that tripod right there where I was, and I was 100 yards from the cabin. They were 400 yards from me, and I ran as fast as I could for the cabin. Because I thought, hey, if I start shooting, what if they don't stop? It's 20 wolves there. I got 4 or 5 rounds of, if I had one in the chamber, I had 5 rounds of ammunition there. I ran for the cabin. I go in the door, and just like the time before. They're right there in my front yard. I look out and they're 50 yards away. They're all milling around, 20 wolves. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. So, but I'm safe and sound in the cabin. So I just collect my thoughts. I'm like, man, it's time to teach these wolves a lesson. If I let those wolves leave now, they're going to think I'm just food. I run away when they see me.
Right.
You know, I could be out there in the night, in the dark, not even know wolves are around and get ambushed by them or something. So I had to shoot some of those wolves. So I loaded up the gun, made sure everything was perfectly right, you know, put some extra ammunition in my pocket, checked everything out. Okay, I'm set to go out there with this gun and talk to these wolves about this situation. And I go back out, and they were back at the moose. It turned out to be a moose they'd killed. They were back over there at the kill. So I thought, well, it'd be a lot safer if I shot from close to the cabin, you know, rather than go out there on the open ice. So I'll just see if I can lure them back over here. And I started running back and forth right in front of my cabin on the ice just to get their attention. And sure enough, it worked. That whole pack of 20 wolves started racing across that lake at a full gallop straight toward me. I couldn't believe it. I was right in front of my cabin. I'd just run back and forth like 50 yards out to my little water hole in the ice and back to the cabin a few times, and they just started running right at me. So I sat right down there on the bank, on the shore, right, 15 feet in front of my porch, and started shooting. I think if I remember right, the first one I hit was 264 yards. I measured it all off the next day. It was kind of interesting just checking out the tracks and seeing what had happened. I hit 3 of them.
What happened when one got hit?
They stopped at the closest tracks to me were about 40 yards, you know. When it was happening,
Close.
It was happening so fast. I was just sitting down, braced, shooting. I remember reloading after I shot 5 times. It all happened so fast. But then the next day when I had time, I went out there and looked at all the tracks and measured everything and sized up the situation, figured out where I had hit different wolves and stuff. And I wrote that all down. That's what I was mentioning in the notes section there on my Facebook page, that story, because I wanted, when it was fresh in my mind, to really have the details, because I knew right then that something happened to me that doesn't really happen to people. I mean, have a pack of wolves come after you is a very unusual occurrence. You could read all over the place that wolves don't attack humans. I've read that many times.
But they have.
They have, at least
particularly historically.
Historically,
the whole Little Red Riding Hood. That's all because they were trying to warn children about wolves.
Yeah.
Now, when you found these wolves, and when you started shooting and you hit one, did the other ones freak out? Did they realize what's going on?
They started putting on the brakes, but the first wolf I hit was over 250 yards. I think it was 264 yards, something like that, from me, and some of the tracks came about 40 to 50 yards from me before they had stopped. They were doing U-turns, you could see, in front of me. They were all just milling around. When I was reloading, I just remember seeing all these wolves milling around in front of me, like running around in circles, and I was like, holy cow, and I'm reloading. And I remember shooting one more time as they were headed away, but they all took off. They headed into the woods, and one of the wolves that I had hit was paraplegic, but he was still going on 2 legs. So I ran in. Yeah, I ran in the cab. The other 2 had just dropped immediately. One of them was hit right in the head. But I ran in the cabin and grabbed my 22 because I didn't want to put a big 30-06 hole in this wolf that was paraplegic. And I chased him down, caught up with him, shot him with 22. Then I could hear all the other wolves howling and howling. They're like, probably almost half a mile away from me by then. They were up in the woods on the other side of the lake, and I just ran over to that, what they had killed. And this was the first time I saw it. It was a 1.5-year-old bull moose. And it was still all there.
Surrounded by wolves.
That story is crazy. I was telling a friend of mine about it, the story of you were in Alberta and you shot an elk and these wolves circled the elk. Yeah. How many wolves were there?
Well, at first there was just the one. The one came in, and the one came in on us, and that's one I do want to say off the beginning. One thing that I always do as a hunter is I always buy a predator tag if it's available. If I know that I can get that I can buy a tag for coyotes or wolves, I always have one in my pocket because you do see, they're out there, and they're out there way more now. And this is an exact reason why you got to do it, because literally we had an elk down, and next thing you know, we're out there kind of, getting it ready to to cut it up and stuff and get it out of there. And all of a sudden this big wolf comes, it comes in, and I had spotted it, and we weren't really being noisy. So I ended up shooting that wolf, and it kind of went off, and with a bow, there's no noise. So what we didn't realize was there was a pack there, and that was actually, it was an alpha female, is because of the size of it. I mean, you saw the size of it.
Yeah.
It's as big as me. And it actually went off, and then we kind of thought, well, that was freaking freaky. Well, then about 20 minutes later, all of a sudden we see another one, and we see another one, and we're kind of like, holy crap. So we start moving into this draw, and one of them was like making like a noise, almost like it was injured or something. It was like whimpering. So we're like, what is the deal? So we were on high ground with the elk, and then we started moving down into this ravine because we saw the wolves down in there. And next thing you know, we get down in there, and I start looking around, and there's like hair on the trees. There's like, it looked like that movie Into the Gray.
The Gray.
That's exactly what it looked like.
The Liam Neeson movie.
There was like freaking hairy turds everywhere. It was just, there was like beds. There was hair rubbed on the trees. And I start looking around. There's like holes dug in. And I'm like, I literally look at my two buddies that were there with me, and I said, we're right in their freaking den. Like, and I think that elk was not too far. Our elk wasn't too far from
So when
the den.
you shot an elk that they probably thought of as theirs.
Oh, they definitely thought of it was theirs. Yeah, they definitely thought that was theirs. So then once we're down there, all of a sudden we hear this howl. We're like down there, we hear this howl, and it was definitely an alpha, because an alpha's, the howl, it literally turns your blood instantly cold if you're right in on a true wolf howl. It's like so freaking low and deep, and it's just like chills your blood.
Well, you realize it's not a game.
Well, yeah, then I realized, I'm like, we're in their freaking den. And, I'm kind of looking down. I'm like, okay, well, I shot an elk. Then I shot that. I've got 2 arrows left. So, and, both my guides kind of had, once we said, oh, there's wolves, they like grabbed a gun. We kind of went down in there to see what was up. Well, now this happens. And next thing, after that alpha sounded off, it was like, and 12 sounded off all the way around us. We're literally down. Anyone who's been in Alberta, that the farmland is level, and then it falls into the river system. So we're literally, they have the high ground. There's a dozen wolves, and we're in the middle, and we're like, what the crap? So I'm like, get your back to a tree. So we kind of all spin around, and we're sitting there. And next thing you know, here comes 2 dogs on a full-blown, I'm talking like full-blown like this, like
running,
coming. And it turned into chaos. There was like bullets flying. There's freaking arrows skipping off junk. And we ended up shooting both of those wolves dead. And there's a few gunfires going off. Well, I'm down to like 1 arrow left. And I told the guy, I said, how many bullets you got? And he goes, well, I just grabbed the gun, couple bullets. Like, I didn't know this was all going down. So we're kind of like, we need to get out of here. So we started backing up, and next thing you know, the alpha sounded off again, and they all reported. This time there's only 2 or 2 less. So next thing I know, I'm like, we're trying to back out.
So when you say that, wait a minute, hold on a second. You say they reported, they know that 2 were dead.
Yes.
So all of them are howling.
I'm certain that the first howl was the alpha male pretty much saying, is everyone in position? Because then they're all like, yes, all the way around. Then all of a sudden the 2 come. All hell breaks loose. Then we're like, the alpha sounds again, but he's in a different location. He was actually to my left, like right here, and really close. And it's thick in there. You've been there. Mm-hmm. You know how thick it gets. So then they sound off. Well, now this time there's 2 less. So I'm kind of looking because I know this wolf that sounded was, and I know it's the alpha. So I like grab my bow and I start kind of creeping over there. And as soon as I get to where I can see, he's like freaking standing right there. And
How far away?
30 yards.
Which
actually,
a wolf can cover.
Jamie, pull up that picture from Joe's Instagram. Like it was about a week ago. Okay, so that right there, that is exactly the face that I saw. But he was head on. He wasn't broadside. But that face where he was literally looking at me like that. And I mean, you're in a fight or flight. Like I'm totally in a fight or flight. I had one arrow left on my string. I freaking grabbed my bow. I kind of looked at him. I knew at that moment it was like he was coming. Yeah, it's like freaking deja vu. That's deja vu right
before that wolf picture, there was another wolf picture. That one. Look at that one, man. He's got snow all over his face and his teeth are bared.
That's a cool picture. Like to me, that's pretty cool. Wolves are amazing.
They're amazing.
And the one thing people underestimate about hunters is our respect for animals.
If you love them, why did you kill it?
I totally respect them. I love them, but I can tell you that other picture right there, when you have that looking at you in the face, I mean, I knew it was like freaking do or die. And I literally looked at that thing and I said out loud, I said, I'm going to shoot you in the effing face.
Because I like how you don't swear.
Yeah, sorry.
It's cute.
And my boy might listen.
I understand.
And I remember I drew back. I literally drew back and I anchored and I came into my peep. And
which means, for people who don't know, there's like a little circle that you look at through the string where you line it up with the sight.
So I was literally
lining up the shot.
And as soon as I kind of brought my shot down to where that wolf was, there was nothing there.
He bolted.
No, I think he just like ninja'd.